Welcome. Cash Flow Friday is back again, and today we're going to talk about leverage and what are the things that you need to do in order to better understand leverage, but get to the point where you're taking action on investing. Now, if you know me, I'm very excited for my um, process of pouring into more people and helping you getting to the results that you want when it comes to real estate investing. Because the thing that I've noticed the most is people are at this spot where they're stuck, right? And the reality of investing in real estate is not hard, but you have a lot of mental barriers that you have to be able to make it through in order to make a good impact on your family. And it's a mindset. And the thing that I learned from most people, have a little camera problem here. Sorry about that. Freezing up on you. One of the biggest things that I've learned when people are trying to invest in real estate is that they have this mental barrier. And I was super excited just about learning from one of my recent clients that I'll show you guys a testimonial from them later if you want to. Well, seems like one of my cameras went out. So what they told me and what I think was real good is that when someone is wanting to invest, the mental barrier that it takes, like just right now, things not going right, things are messing up that I had figured out, but it must go on. And so I want you to think about this, like how, when things don't go as planned, how do you get back and move forward and also learn from the adjustments you need to make or that haven't been made that you want to make? Because what I've noticed is that number one, I easily get distracted, right? And I want everything to go right. But what I've learned is that me wanting everything to be right and perfect the very first time, it actually points to me on what are the things I need to do better. And the same thing I learned about leverage. Like leverage is your ability to be able, let's look up the definition. I want to make sure I use the definition of leverage. So let's do that. Leverage. I'm going to share the screen with you so you can see me look at leverage as well. Okay. So, leverage. Let's see here, y'all on this one. Leverage. Definition. So, leverage. Use borrowed capital for an investment, expecting a profit to be greater than the interest payable, or two, use something to maximize advantage. So I like this one. So both verbs, but you use something to maximize advantage. So I want you to think about how most of the time, if you are in a work environment, if you're in a work environment, working a 9 to 5, and let's say you work in a factory, because I used to work in a factory back when I was playing football. And I used to work on a production line. And that production line, you were making a product. And that product that you was making had to get a certain amount that was made that needed to be shipped out by a certain date. And if that wasn't met, that would cost the factory. That would get everybody a bad rep. And what would happen is you would get to the point where you are either meeting expectations and also the leverage of having that product out of the door by a certain time frame, or not having it out the door by a certain time frame, is your ability to, got these kids in the background and make a lot of noise. So we're gonna take 1 second and gather my thoughts. All right. So going back to the analogy of leveraging, and leveraging when it comes to a factory, think about you or a worker who's working 9 to 5. And that 9 to 5, they're leveraging you so that they can be able to meet their goal when it comes to the production. They're leveraging you so that whatever goal they need to accomplish, they're going to pay you X amount, maybe let's say $100, so that they can make 100,000. And I want you to just think about that for, like, even if you made an hourly rate, just like for somebody who makes something in an hour, $100 for the hour, for that same person who's making 100, you're helping somebody else make 100,000. So how much is that $100 in that case, right? So when it comes to leverage, one of the things I realize is that it is a huge barrier for people to really understand the benefits of leverage. Like you just seen, it's to maximize. And when you want to maximize and take advantage of something, let's talk about real estate. But what are the barriers that people go through when it comes to real estate, and what are the mistakes they make? But so I'm going to show you my whiteboard. 1 second. Debt, the big D word. All right. So I want you to think about debt for a second. Now, a lot of people, when it comes to debt, they're very scared of it. It's because there's so many different things out there, but I want to make it very simple for you. When you think about debt, I want you to think about good debt or bad debt. Okay? So I'm going to write that on my board, but it's going to be either good debt or bad debt. Because once you focus on debt from that perspective, you can be able to understand things a little bit better. Okay, so you have good debt and you have bad debt. All right, so I want you to think about now, what is good debt? What is good debt? So good debt could be anything that you have to take a loan out on, and you're going to get some type of income that's going to take care of that debt plus more. So if, going back to the example that I just used, if you're working at a factory, somebody is paying you $100 an hour so that they can make $100,000. And it can be an hour, it can be within that month. Let's just say that day. So just let's say, hey, we need you for an hour a day. You make $100 this hour, we make $100,000. So it goes in the same thing with when you're using leverage and when you're using debt to be able to be an advantage for you. So what happens? You say that, all right, I want to use debt, right? Now, all right. So I want you to think about, appreciate y'all for joining me, having a little camera difficulty, but think about debt, right? So you have good debt, good or bad, assets that's paying you. And if those assets are paying you, then what happens next? There we go. We're getting back in action. So what happens at that point? Well, you have that good asset, and that asset is not only is it paying you, but it is paying you to cover the debt that's associated with it. So I want to maybe help you understand like a story of me when I first started real estate investing. I was a huge Dave Ramsey fan. So I was real huge on no debt, no debt, no debt. Like all debt is bad debt. Like that's what you taught, that's what you think when it comes to debt. And so the reality is when you or stay in that mindset, like your mind is so focused on being able to just not only stay away from debt, but to think that debt is the bad all in all, and you will ruin your life by using debt. And that's kind of, and here's the thing, that was his story. If you look into the history of Dave Ramsey, like a lot of his story was he used debt, leveraged it, real similar to what I'm talking about. And when he used that to be able to leverage it, what happened? He had high leverage. That's why we're talking about what we're talking about today. So when you have high leverage, then you have, when things come due, then guess what? The question is, hey, are you going to be able to satisfy this debt? Because if you can't, we're going to have to confiscate what assets that you have, right? So the things that you buy is very important, because if you go back to the example I was talking about, if you're buying retail type debt, if you're going to go buy cars, unless that car is going to turn into an asset like a Turo or something, and you just paying for it just for your cost, just to live, and it's not paying you, then that's bad debt. If you have clothes, you're using credit cards to just shop, and none of those things is in a position where it's paying you, then you're putting yourself at a very, very bad position when it comes to leverage, because you're leveraging debt to not pay you, just to help your type of living that you want. And so it's important to understand that background for Dave Ramsey. And I was that person that I didn't even have that. Me and my wife was college graduates. And as college graduates, what did that mean? That we also graduated with no student debt, right? So my ability to be able to graduate without any student debt, that's huge, because a lot of people don't have that opportunity. So it was my ability to kind of open up my mind and say, okay, it has to be more to this, right? Because if I stay in this loophole, in this mental block that I have, then I'm gonna hurt myself. So the next, and how do you use leverage to help accelerate and get you to a bigger amount? Well, this is where understanding the ability to see if I can get my board back up. Let me see here. So what I just wrote on the board was loan to value. And if you see it, so it says loan to value, and loan to value is 85%, 80%, and 75%. Now, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to have my LTV as 85%, 80%, and 70%? Well, when you look at loan to values, the bank is never going to give you 100% of any property when you buy something. So let's say if you have $100,000 and that $100,000 and you say, well, what's 85% of 100,000? 85,000. So the bank is only going to give you 85 thousand dollars in relation if you need $100,000 loan. So that means from there, you need to find a way to come up with the rest. Now, one of the things you realize is that when there's future equity and there's opportunity that you can make not only one improvements on a loan, on a house, or on a land, or whatever you're purchasing, then your ability to not only have that piece of land or make the improvements, but you can look at what is the future value of this property that I'm gonna have, because the future value of that property is going to determine what is it that I can be able to do and how much appreciation can I have when it comes to that property. All right. So think about loan to value in that sense that when you are taking out a loan, like get as low as leverage as possible. So it's like, well, how do I do that if I don't have any money? And what are ways that I can build up? So let's talk about practical strategies to responsibly utilize leverage. So you have to identify the optimal debt level to maximize your cash flow and your equity buildup. So going back to the LTV, like I was just telling you about, think about if you were looking to buy a piece of property, and this is why distressed properties are a very great entry, and you can find a lot of them if you just go drive by, look at the high grasses, high everything. And when you see these properties, you realize one thing: you know it needs a lot of work. Sometimes you don't know that much, and that's why you have to start educating yourself on, like, what does it mean to make the proper improvements so that you can have the value that you want on your property. And your ability to do so will determine how much of a value. And sometimes this is where flippers come in, and you have people wholesalers, because when they sell these properties, they have used a certain leverage or metric to be able to not only purchase the property, make the improvements, but to increase the value. But the value that you get is going to either, if in this case, if you're flipping it, you get that back and you like, hey, I paid off and I satisfied my debts, or it is you being able to it is your ability to when you purchase that property, is to have it is to be able to have the ability to, when you purchase anything, is the LTV levels, the lower you can not only get it, but put yourself in a position, and think about this, like if over time the value of any property is going down and the value of it is going up, then like think about rent. Most of the people rent and they're nervous because of like debt, which we was talking about today, but you are nervous because it's like, well, man, I don't want to be in a position where what if something happens? What if something breaks, right? And it's a fair question. But let's think about this. If you don't put yourself in a position of ownership, you can never get the value and the benefits that comes from owning real estate. You hear it and you see people post about it and you see me talk about it. But your ability to not own any real estate, and you're just someone who waiting for a perfect market, who waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting to have the perfect credit score. Guess what? When is that going to be tomorrow? When will that day come and pass? And it's just you being honest with yourself when it comes to being able to be in a better position. Like, not only do you need to just be honest with yourself, but you have to say, I got to become a little bit more unfamiliar and trust a process that people are that people have and that people are doing. And if I have a process and I say, hey, I want to show you the process, would you listen? Would you pay attention to it? And chances are you're going to say yes. And you saying yes is going to enter you into a realm of unknown, unfamiliarity, as my mentor say. And your ability to do that and have that is going to be very different. Hey, buddy, I'm almost finished, okay?
That's cold.
Thank you. Gotta love the little ones. So your ability to not only own the real estate, but put yourself in a position where, all right, like this is not only something you can pass down. Like if and that's why I'm so big on people purchasing homes, because if it started with us as the very first house that we bought, opened our minds to like, man, it wasn't that bad. Like, we used bank, we had a little money at that time and we was able to take advantage. I think we did an FHA loan. I don't even know that. I think about it, but I just know we took action. We got out of renting, and I never forget, like my mentor had said, I was sitting down with him. He was like, do you know the benefits you get from actually purchasing a home, like tax write-offs? And I didn't understand most of that because I was so stuck in this, like, all debt is bad debt mindset. And I realized real quick that I want to own something. I want to be in a better position than I'm in. And so I just remember coming back home and it was like, hey, I'm done. We are about to buy something. And so when we bought that first property, I was like, man, that wasn't that bad. And so it's like the hurdle, the mental barriers that most people have to get over just to be able to purchase that first property, it's a thing. But once you do that, it starts opening up the floodgates. And so I say all that to say this is that purchasing real estate does not have to be a hard thing. But purchasing real estate is a huge, huge opportunity for you to start changing the legacy in your family. So I have a free cash flow sheet down below, and starting August 12th, I'll be doing a free. No, we're doing a masterclass, and I have 10 spots that we have. So if you want to learn more about that, go to the cash flow sheet, and that'll be a great way to start studying this a little bit more. And then as I have more trainings on Cash Flow Friday, you can be able to attend and make sure you learn more about everything that's come to real estate. So every Friday at 6:30, I'll be coming on. It was a little late today, had some technical issues, but you can go in and come here, and I'll be dropping dimes when it comes to this, and then we'll get off of this. Then Cash Flow Friday is generally a way how you change your mindset, and then so I go into more teaching mode outside of live. So if you want to be able to join the Zoom link for some of the people who's on the Zoom, you can be able to learn more about, okay, Cash Flow Friday, you always talking about this. What does this mean? How is this going to help me out? Or who will this help out? Well, you can know that only by just opting in to the cash flow sheet. And then from there, we'll just send you information based on that. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking it out with me on a couple difficulties I had. Go take advantage of your life. And if you start in real estate, just know that you have to be the person who's willing to own and put yourself in a position, not only about owning it, but doing the hard work that it takes to be able to take it and run with it. All right. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk next time.